This is Melissa Darlow's and Emily Dixon's Applied Health and Exercise Science assignment. What is a periodisation cycle? Periodisation is an educated attempt to predict future performances based on evaluation of previous competitions, training results, and scientific facts about the body's adaptive response to stress. It is achieved through planning and organisation of training into cyclic structure. Periodisation training works on the concept of overload and adaptation by stressing the body over time, allowing it to recover, and then stressing it again, and then athletes gradually build their fitness. This cycle supports a framework for planned and systematic variations of training parameters. As you can see in the diagram to the right, these are different sections of periodised training.
Within periodisation, a mesocycle is one of the types of planning phases. It usually lasts between 1 and 6 months. For our target age, we have gone with Key Stage 3, which is year 7 to 9. We did this because it is a stage where PE teachers are one of the primary influencers on whether students continue physical activity into adolescence. It is also important to encourage good nutritional knowledge at this age, and also PE is often an unpopular subject, in particular for teenage girls, but because it is mandatory, it is therefore important that students are aware of their body's needs. Selection of periodisation methods for different training mesocycles throughout the year should also reflect the needs of the respective phase of training. Our timescale overall is 10 weeks, which is a full term, but for the purpose of this we are focusing on the first 5 weeks of the term. Hopefully at the start and the end of this we will see a clear change between nutrition and also overall fitness.
The overall aims of our cycle, one being to improve the health of the group, but also to educate them on particular diets and exercise fitness. It is asserted that good nutritional diets can contribute to better performance, decrease the risk of injury, improve lifestyle habits, and maintain an adequate weight whether the student is an athlete or not. The mesocycle will be introduced and incorporated throughout our session plans as a dietary requirement, and physical activity intensity changes on the goal and the timescale. The cycle will ultimately improve students' endurance because as the sessions go on, the intensity will be increased, developing strength, speed, agility, and many more aspects. Finally, another aim of ours is to reinforce the importance of good nutrition, minimising injury, and can help it optimise performance. By having the correct diet and habits will encourage physical activity taking place into adulthood and reducing future health issues. As well as all these aims, we hope to encourage social and emotional development, ensuring students get developed on social awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, and many more.
As you can see here, these are the government guidelines for food, energy, macronutrients, salt and dietary fibre requirements for our Key Stage 3. This will be focused upon during the food tech lessons, but also regarding fitness, the students will be required to know their nutritional needs in order to pair this up with their training. This slide shows 3 out of the 5 weeks of our first half of the mesocycle. Week 1 is mostly an introduction into our mesocycle, so there will be an hour theory and an hour practical, with the second hour being on circuits. We just want to see a general overview of every student's health and fitness and find out what they know about their nutritional needs in relation to this. Heading into week 3, we start to talk about total energy expenditure, body composition and energy balance. We will start to introduce macronutrients and micronutrients and the importance of a balanced diet, and again we will start to relate this to different types of training such as circuits.
This is week 4 and 5 out of the half-term period, whereby week 4 will be 2 practicals in the same day, one being in the morning which will be an hour long, where students will calculate their maximum heart rate zones, and hopefully by the end of the session or throughout the session will meet their 80 to 90% maximum heart rate. Students will also incorporate the principles of training and use progression and especially overload, which is accentuated in our mesocycle, throughout their session. The second hour of that same day will be a food technology lesson where students will prepare 2 meals from the lessons they planned the previous week. Week 5 will also be more of a reflection from the first week.
I'm now going to go into detail on week 1, lesson 1, which was a circuit and goal setting. Starting with a circuit allows students to find out their general health and fitness levels. Circuits also focus on multiple areas of the body, and from this session, targets can be set for the mesocycle for each student. The type of target set will be SMART targets, which need to be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. We thought that by completing a circuit for the first practical, it allows students to clearly see progress at the beginning and then at the end, setting targets for the midpoint of the mesocycle. We will also get them to create a food diary in this week so they can see what their nutrition changes have been at the end of the process. Doing this allows for social and emotional development, as a lot of the processes outside of school will be students making their own decision on their meal choices, on the amount of exercise they do, and also what intensity it is, and that allows them to have self-awareness of what their bodies need. By the end of the mesocycle, the students will hopefully have a better understanding of their nutritional needs and also know the exercise needed to fulfill a healthy, active lifestyle for their key stage. This aim is to make students enjoy physical activity more and have the desire to be more healthy. This is the general overview for week 1, lesson 1. So the learning outcomes would be to understand the importance of physical and mental health, to be able to relate and apply the correct training to individual needs in order to meet targets, and then to be able to analyse results and measure progress. The constraints-led approach will be brought in throughout this lesson as the students are being able to decide for themselves what they wish to improve on throughout the mesocycle and how they intend to do so. Circuits are a perfect way to introduce the constraints-led approach, as it is up to the individual how many reps of each activity they do, how intense they do each activity, and also how long they do each activity for, as for the first week we're not going to be too strict on the timing. After this activity, we intend to set SMART targets. They're useful for short-term goals in particular. For the circuit, we intend to record it so that then for the second activity in this session, they can peer assess with a partner and then set themselves 2 SMART targets which will be reflected upon in week 5. For example, a student may only manage to do 10 sit-ups in a 30-second time period, but they may then set themselves a SMART target to double this for week 5. On the other hand, they could shorten the amount of time they do sit-ups for, but still try and get the same 10 reps in that they did in week 1. Either way, this would allow them to see progress, and it reflects on their strengths and weaknesses from the first week. Also in this session, we want to let the students create a weekly food diary based off what they normally would eat in a week. Again, this will be compared and looked at in week 5 once they've learnt about their nutritional needs in the food tech lessons. There is differentiation throughout this lesson due to there being choices for the students to work on each station. So instead of saying there will be sit-ups on station 1 and shuttle runs on station 2, for example on station 1 it would just be called abs station, allowing the students to choose what ab activity they wish to work on, as there will be worksheets giving them multiple options. Again, this links to the constraints-led approach as we are giving the students more choice. The food diary made will be discussed in week 5 and week 10, and again comparison will be made to see what changes have been made and how this has been beneficial to training but also general health. For the plenary, we just want the students to think ahead about what principles of training are and how they link to nutrition and also to what type of sport they may do outside of school. For their homework, we want them to complete their own weekly schedule that includes meals and also a training plan, as again in the next few weeks this will be compared to what they have then learnt.
This is week 4, session 5 and 6, the practical and food technology session. This follows on from last week's session where students explored different nutritional values of macronutrients and micronutrients and produced different meals that would be perfect for a balanced diet. This session will be split into 2 parts, the first part of the session being a practical, doing a HIIT, alongside students monitoring their heart rate and calculating how they get to their maximal heart rate. The second part of the session will take place in the afternoon and will be a food technology as a post-recovery meals they'll be producing from what they made in week 3. In session 5, when they'll be doing a HIIT as part of a circuit training, the learning objectives are to understand the percentage thresholds and how to apply them during the HIIT, and to analyse how certain macro and micronutrients are utilised for recovery. When going into detail on the main activity, following on from the starter, once students have calculated their maximal heart rate, They will begin the HIT with the intention of getting between 80 to 90% of their maximum heart rate to hopefully see progression in their endurance. In the main activity, there will be 8 different stations with the choice of up to 4 activities where students will be able to use their self-management and also use their responsible decision-making in calculating which activities will be most beneficial for maximising their heart rate. Students will apply the FITT principle, the FIT principle, to their circuit training /HIT, as they'll be able to change the time on whether they want to work for 30 seconds to a minute. This also enhances their self-awareness as they need to realise whether they'll get worn out or they'll be consistent throughout. Following on from the main activity, to aid with homework and with the food technology lesson, students in groups while cooling down will jog and stretch, and they'll also place cards together which will refer to energy systems. This will be incorporated within the food technology lesson, so by backing up on information they've learnt before, this will help them with their overall homework. Throughout the first activity, students will use this piece of evidence to help them calculate what type of endurance they want to do. In the session 6, which will take place at the end of the day, students will do a food technology lesson. In the starter, students will need to initially match the ingredients to the macro and micronutrients category. These types of ingredients will be incorporated in the main activity, such as in the fajita chicken orzo, the steak and aubergine salad, etc. By doing this through pictures, it also incorporates the ingredients and will make the picture more sustainable in their memory, as they'll associate pictures to a name of an ingredient. Furthermore, the starter will also introduce general calories per gram. Students will also then need to match the calories, such as carbohydrates of 4 calories per grams, and then students will have to match these, which will help with their homework and their main activity. Alongside the session aim in the main activity of recovering from the exercise they did at the beginning of the day, students will prepare 2 dishes of their choice, which they'll have designed in previous lessons. When creating the dishes, students will have to write a report, and also in the missing gaps on the sheet they'll be given, they'll have to write down the ingredients and the number of calories in each ingredient, which overall they'll calculate the total calories at the end and see if this dish is beneficial for recovering. In accordance with the constraint-led approach, the task, by using a food technology room, it encourages students to be creative and proactive about designing different dishes. It incorporates work from previous knowledge, and also students will be able to pick the level of difficulty with both the HIT and the food technology lessons. There will be multiple dishes on offer for students to attempt, and they'll all be scaled at a level of difficulty, with 1 star being a lower level of difficulty and the 5-star being the highest level of difficulty. And it's up for the individual, according to the constraint-led approach, it's up to the individual to design which one they would like to achieve. As part of the homework, finally, students will need to write a paragraph on the energy systems using their performance in the HIT and the practical lessons by how eating their foods will help aid in recovery. As seen in previous slides, these are what the students will be given to try and make sure that their dishes will get up to at least half of the daily average.
Throughout the mesocycle, students will learn about energy system adaptations as well as nutritional adaptations. The students will learn about the anaerobic, aerobic and lactic acid systems, which will be done through the cool down, which students learnt about in the previous lesson. Through the food technology lessons, students will use their knowledge from week 3, which is when they learnt about macro and micronutrients and how they could create their dishes in groups of 3 and 4 using information from the government guidelines. Throughout the session, students will be encouraged to consume water, as according to Sharef's 2009, this is essential when doing exercise.
As I mentioned on the previous slide, the constraints-led approach is evident throughout all sessions, as well as the one above. Differentiation is shown throughout the session plans to ensure that there's opportunities for students to excel in the most effective way. By using different affordances, this creates opportunities for students to excel in different areas according to VIOF. By changing different environments within the constraints-led approach, it encourages students to do different things that they wouldn't normally do within their core lessons, such as a food tech lesson. According to Moy, the surface of the environment and both tasks won't cause any risk to the sessions. If anything, it will make it more safer. In accordance with the individual, according to Burke and Cox, all activities within the sessions have the option of choice, and that is essential for different difficulties that students will be able to choose what they would like to participate in. As asserted by Renshaw and Chow, the ecological dynamics of the constraints-led approach offers affordances for opportunities for students to excel under their own institution.
The constraints-led approach articulates that a learner will self-organise in ways to create effective movement solutions through the interaction of different constraints, which are the task, environment and the performer. Learners' intentions have the power to act as a specific informational constraint. In this case, the student's approach to physical activity in general can be a main constraint, stopping from them enjoying exercise and wanting to take part, which we intend to change through our sessions. You can see this all in the diagram below. Thank you. Here is our reference list.